This morning, the third largest county in Texas will elect a new leader in November.
The county is run by Republicans right now. Is there waste right now in the budget? Is there a department that you would get rid of?
Republican Tim O'Hare.
What do you say to people who think you might be soft on crime?
Democrat Deborah Peoples take our questions and lay out their priorities for Tarrant County. Governor Greg Abbott and Beto O'Rourke meet this week in their first and only debate. We'll share what we'll be watching for on Friday night. And a new poll shows Republicans are widening their leads in the state's top races. Can Texas Democrats do anything about it in the remaining 6 weeks before the election?
Inside Texas Politics with Jason Whiteley starts now.
Good morning this Sunday to our viewers across the state. I'm Mark Istook in for Jason Whiteley this weekend. We start with the top political headlines here in Texas as we have watched Republicans make quite a few changes to how we vote. The narrative? Fighting election fraud. But every single Texas Republican in Congress refused to support a bill that would hopefully prevent another January 6th and stop future presidents from trying to overturn the vote. Now, Republicans say the existing Electoral Count Act worked as it should have on January 6, 2021. Despite those GOP objections, congressional Democrats approved those reforms. Their vote, 229 to 203. Another significant milestone in the growing problem along our southern border. Border Patrol arrested more than 2 million migrants this fiscal year, a record. It far exceeds last year's total, which was also a record, more than 1.7 million arrests. Now, polls consistently show Texas voters say this is one of their biggest concerns. And we've got yet another Texas Republican coming out in support of Democrat Mike Collier. Former Republican Lieutenant Governor and State Senator Bill Ratliff says he will back Collier rather than GOP incumbent Dan Patrick. Ratliff served in the 90s and early 2000s, and he joins several other conservative officials who have publicly backed Collier. We start off this morning with the third largest county in the state of Texas, and it's one of the fastest growing in the country. In November, voters will elect a new Tarrant County Judge, and the two candidates could not be further apart. We begin alphabetically, first with Tim O'Hare, an attorney, former mayor of Farmer Branch, and past chairman of the local Republican Party. Jason Whiteley sat down with O'Hare in Fort Worth.
Tim, good to see you again. Let's start with taxes and talk taxes. In the primary, you said you would reduce the property tax rate by 20%, or a 20% cut in spending at the county level. Largest expenditure for any county in Texas, law enforcement, the jail, and public health. What are you planning to cut?
So 20% tax rate cut is what I proposed. Just if you look at the appraisals by itself, the appraisals go up this year. I think they went up on average 13.5%. So the tax rate cut, I mean, you're going to get excess revenue that'll probably actually result in a tax cut, actual property tax cut, probably of somewhere between 8-10%. So in terms of things to cut, one of the ways you do it is by attrition. So what government regularly does is when somebody leaves a job, instantly, without any forethought at all, we got to go get a job, post out, and replace them. What we're going to do in Tarrant County is we're going to truly examine that job, that role, and other jobs in every department to see if we really do need to replace that job or not. With attrition, you can address a lot of the issue. The other thing that we're going to do, Tarrant County, Fort Worth included, but the entire county, has really underperformed when it comes to getting high-quality companies and jobs to come into the county. We're going to make that a major priority in Tarrant County to build our tax base. We're sort of upside down when it comes to our reliance in cities around Tarrant County and the whole county on residential. We need to change that around. And then another way to address it, so government, just by its very nature, grows and grows and grows and continues to add new departments and add new places and add new positions, thinking they can solve every single problem that's out there. We're going to stop adding new departments. We're going to stop adding new positions, put in a job freeze, and see if we can do it with who we have. And I believe we can, and I've seen it before, and I think we can do it in Tarrant County.
The county is run by Republicans right now. Is there waste right now in the budget? Is there a department that you would get rid of?
So I don't know if I would say get rid of a department. Is there waste in the budget? There's waste in every government budget. And so what I believe Tarrant County needs, our property taxes are too high in Tarrant County, they're too high in the state. What they need out of their county judge is someone that's going to watch their tax dollars like a hawk, look at every dollar and how it's spent, make sure it's spent wisely, but they also want somebody that will be testifying in Austin and working with the governor, the lieutenant governor, and the legislators to make sure that we're promoting and in favor of their tax cut plan, which I think if Governor Abbott, Lieutenant Governor Patrick win, which I believe they will, they're going to make property tax, they're going to take another shot at it, and they'll have somebody from the third largest county in the state of Texas down there championing the proposal to give property tax relief to everybody in our county and statewide.
We notice you don't have any support from any of the Republicans in office in Tarrant County. Mayor Matty Parker in Fort Worth, Glenn Whitley, the outgoing county judge here too, Arlington Mayor Jim Ross. Did you ask any of them for their endorsements?
So the way you asked that question, you notice I don't have any support from Republican office holders in Tarrant County. I've got support from Republican office holders all over the county. Congressman Roger Williams, Congressman Jake Elzey, Congresswoman Beth Van Dyne, Sheriff Bill Wayburn, District Clerk Tom Wilder, County Clerk Mary Louise Nicholson, multiple mayors throughout the county.
How about those three there, the mayor of the two largest cities in this county and then the outgoing county judge?
Well, if you look at Jim Ross's voting history, he regularly votes a Democrat. And there's a lot of people that would be incredibly upset if I asked for his endorsement. I have met with Jim, like Jim, get along with Jim, would love to have him voting for me and telling his friends and family to do the same. Matty Parker and her husband have been very helpful to me. Matty has a tough race. She has a Democrat city, and she's a Republican, so there's a lot of political stuff that goes into all those things. But they've been very helpful, and Matty's somebody that I'd work really well with.
There's been some talk about Jerry Jones wanting to do another Super Bowl in Arlington. Do you see any way, form, or fashion that you would support Tarrant County spending taxpayer money to try to recruit another Super Bowl here?
That's a great question. I don't know if we can put up a snow filter to stop that from happening, but a Super Bowl would be a huge, huge economic boom to the entire region, and especially Tarrant County, since the Super Bowl is here in Tarrant County, or since the stadium's here in Tarrant County. We have a couple of new luxury hotels coming in Tarrant County. So previously, we didn't have a lot of luxury hotels in Tarrant County, so we didn't get a lot of hotel room nights. That's something I'd have to see the pro forma on. I'd have to see what would be the benefits, what kind of money could we expect to come into the county, but it's absolutely something we would take a look at.
Tim, thanks for the time.
You're welcome.
We'll speak with Democrat Deborah Peoples in just a moment, but first we want to go to Austin and a huge political weekend. The 2022 Texas Tribune Festival ended yesterday. Among the first speakers, New York City Mayor Eric Adams, who was in town to blast Texas Governor Greg Abbott for busing migrants north. Joining us now is Matthew Watkins, the managing editor for news and politics for the Texas Tribune. I want to thank you for joining us on this Sunday. So Mayor Adams called the migrant busing inhumane and anti-American and said that New York officials reached out to Governor Abbott beforehand to coordinate those arrivals. They say the governor never took their calls.
That's right. That, I think, was the biggest piece of frustration. Adams is committed, and New York City seems committed to taking care of these migrants when they arrive. But what they seem to be saying here is, we could take care of them better if you tell us when they are arriving or when they're going to come. And so far, that communication between Abbott's office and Adams' office clearly not happening.
And they've been talking about this as a big political stunt, and they're not the only ones that are making that assertion. U.S. Secretary of Transportation Pete Buttigieg, he spoke as well. What did he reveal?
Yeah, I mean, he basically said that this is, this busing is an indication of someone not having a solution and instead raising a problem without really having anything to help make it better. Buttigieg also, I thought, spoke very interestingly about, his own personal experiences and his concerns about Texas leaders targeting LGBTQ communities, including, not voting for gay marriage and not supporting a bill to pass gay marriage, something that he took very personally.
Okay, Matthew, thank you for your insight. We'll catch up with you in just a bit when we go to our reporter roundtable. Coming up, what Deborah Peoples had to say when was asked whether she is soft on crime. Our coverage of the top job in Tarrant County continues in a moment. And Friday is the first and only debate between our candidates for governor, the incumbent Greg Abbott and his challenger Beto O'Rourke. We'll talk about what to watch for. And we just dropped a new episode of Politics this morning, an exit interview with the interim CEO of ERCOT. Before he leaves this week, how much political pressure did he face to keep the lights on over the last year and a half? You can download Politics wherever you get your podcasts. We're back on Inside Texas Politics as we continue now with our coverage of the top job in Tarrant County, the third largest county in the state behind Harris and Dallas. It's a county that has turned purple the last few years. Democrat Deborah Peoples She's trying to flip the county judge seat. She's a former executive at AT&T, former chair of Tarrant County Democrats, and she spoke with Jason Whiteley in Fort Worth.
Deborah, it's good to see you again. Let's start with taxes. Property taxes, way too high in this state and in Tarrant County, from what I'm hearing. How would you lower them if elected?
Oh, absolutely, because I'm one of those taxpayers, okay? So the first thing we have to do is look at your tax bill. Most people don't understand their tax bill. Jason, the biggest portion of your tax bill are your school taxes. Go in and look at your school taxes. And so one of the things that the county judge has to do is go and be an advocate. I'm already talking to legislators. We need to go down to Austin and get public schools full and funded so that our tax bill goes down. But the second piece to this is you got to look at the appraisal process. Something is wrong when counties and cities continue to lower taxes. You know, they brag every year about they lower taxes, but we don't see it because the appraisals continue to shoot up. So it's a two-pronged thing. Number one, we have to look at the components of the tax bill and make sure that we are hitting on every lever there. I mean, pulling every string we can on the county taxes, on working with the cities on the city taxes, but we got to make sure we're getting those school taxes down, and then we got to work on appraisals.
Or is the appraisal district out of line?
Well, they don't think so. As a homeowner, I think so when I see that my bill jumps year over year and we are continuing to have housing starts. And you know, usually you see appraisals go up when you have limited housing stock and things like that. But we're building. And so we need to understand that process. And I think, but it's across the state. It's not uncommon just to us in Tarrant County. Cities all over the state are seeing this. So I think we got some work to do, and it starts down in Austin, and it starts with being good stewards of taxpayers' money.
You were unsuccessful in your run for Fort Worth mayor.
Absolutely.
The run for the county's top job obviously includes a lot of suburban cities.
Yeah.
Why do you think you can win countywide, though, where people might not know you?
Because, well, people are getting to know me. But here's the thing. When I ran for mayor, and I think good leaders, or you have to be introspective. You have to go back and see what you learned. And so when I ran for mayor, and what I learned was, and I came, Maddie and I respect each other. Betsy and I respect each other.
Maddie Parker, the mayor of Fort Worth, and former mayor
Betsy
Price.
I understand that people don't want the partisanship. Jason, they don't. They want government that runs smoothly and efficiently and takes care of them. They want you to fix their taxes. They want you to put good infrastructure. They don't want you to raise your taxes year over year like my opponent did. They don't want you, they don't want all the infighting. They want county government that is seamless and that makes their lives better. And that's the message that's what I learned when I ran. And I think if you learn from something and you go out. And that's why I'm talking to everybody about how we make their lives better and how we stop all the partisan bickering.
What do you say to people who think you might be soft on crime?
Well, number one, I'll tell you, I hate this when people say and I'm not going to go there, but they like to say people are soft on crime. No, we're not. I live on the east side of Fort Worth. I love my house. I love where I live. But I also want to be able to walk just like everybody else, get out and walk around the neighborhood with my grandchild. I want to be able to come home late at night and not be afraid that my house is being broken into. I think that we have to take the necessary steps to make sure that all of our residents are safe and secure.
If elected, first two priorities on day one, what are they?
Oh, wow. Bringing everybody together. So one of the things
that's
that
a
people
tall
talk
order
about,
in this political climate.
Yes, it is. But let me tell you, big umbrella, economic development. We just talked about it a whole lot. I am talking to business people and non-business people around this county. People want to see continued economic development. They want us to keep going after companies. They want us to keep growing it and creating opportunities. Second thing, infrastructure. Big thing around infrastructure. Third thing, and I'll tell you this, is health. People don't understand how important John Peter Smith, our only level 1 trauma center has a teaching hospital. Many of the doctors who are there, intern there and do their residency, stay here. I mean, so we got a lot of things that we have going that I just want to keep moving in the right direction. But bottom line, I want to keep Tarrant County growing. Third largest county in the state. We have all this extra land where we can grow. Aha, Houston and Dallas, we're coming for you.
Deborah, thank you for the time.
No, thank you. Okay.
Which way will these big local races like in Tarrant County go? And what should you be watching for in the gubernatorial debate this week? Two big questions for our roundtable when we return.
This is Inside Texas Politics with Jason Whiteley.
Time now for our Reporters Roundtable as we try to put some of the big headlines in perspective for you. As I want to welcome back Matthew Watkins from the Texas Tribune. And joining us each week, Bud Kennedy from the Fort Worth Star-Telegram and Ashley Godot, anchor and managing editor of political content at KVUE TV in Austin. I want to start off with you, Matthew, as we look forward to the debate this week, the only debate between Texas Governor Greg Abbott and his Democratic challenger Beto O'Rourke. It feels like these guys have been campaigning for forever. Are we going to hear anything new this Friday?
You know, I think if Governor Greg Abbott has his choice, the answer would be no. You know, he has a narrow but comfortable lead in this race right now. So I think for him, the strategy might be get through this without any disasters that, put at risk that lead. Beto O'Rourke, however, might want to make a big splash here. This is one of his last chances to really make a dent in that lead that Abbott has.
Matthew, Bud, do you agree with Matthew? Do you think Beto might have some surprises for us in store on Friday night?
You know, I think Beto will talk again about school violence, Uvalde, and probably play off all the recent scares of school threats, teenagers with guns. He'll try to say that your kids are safer with him as governor and in more danger under Greg Abbott. Greg Abbott will say the exact opposite. He'll say that the Valley is safer. He'll talk to the Valley. He'll say the Valley is safer, has more jobs and more and a stronger economy because he's governor. He'll try to go after more Republican votes in the Valley.
Ashley, what do you think we should be watching for from either the incumbent or the challenger on Friday night?
You know, these two have been going after each other for such a long time now that I don't think we're going to hear anything new, but I do think it will be fun to watch. I think we are going to be looking to see if Beto O'Rourke can continue this more buttoned up approach that he's been having going as he's running for governor compared to when he was running for, president. I think Greg Abbott, of course, is going to try to get him off of his step a little bit. He likes to point out, Beto's cursing and his behavior. And so I think, we're going to really be watching how they act in this debate.
Do you see a possibility of anybody's mind being changed at this point Friday night, Matthew?
Yeah, that's a tough question. You always kind of wonder. The Texas voters know both of these candidates extremely well. And those of us who follow this closely have to wonder, how could you need to know anything else about them to make up your mind? But of course, it's important to remember that not everyone follows these races as closely as we do. So there could be some independent voters, some moderate voters who maybe like some of the things that Greg Abbott is doing with the economy, but maybe aren't thrilled about his positions on guns and abortion and things like that, where, they might be conflicted and seeing how they give their cases to voters on this night could impact their decision.
But we heard that word, abortion. We expect that'll be a big point of contention for Beto O'Rourke on Friday. How much do you expect we'll hear about that topic?
Well, I think that he'll talk about that, but that is the only, as we've talked about here, that's the only issue where Texans seem to really agree with him and think he'd be a better governor. The Texans in the recent polls, seem to lean toward Greg Abbott's view. He'll talk in general about conservative ideology. About 50% of Texans still are strongly Republicans, and it's a question of whether he can keep his share of the independent votes.
Ashley, Beto has talked about Governor Abbott's response to the massacre in Uvalde. Again, how much do you expect that to be a topic?
I think that's going to be a big topic. You can't get around it. That was the most devastating mass shooting in Texas history. It is still very recent. You still have a lot of calls from folks in Uvalde who want to see more action taken, and they haven't seen what they wanted to see from the governor. And so I think that's going to be a big talking point during this debate.
Want to shift from the state of Texas at large to a race that matters to a lot of folks here in Tarrant County and in North Texas. The race for Tarrant County Judge. We've talked to both of those candidates this morning. Now, normally Tarrant County Judge would not be a race getting as much attention as it has drawn, but it feels like the dynamics have been shifting a little bit, Matthew. Is this a political bellwether for the state of Texas at large?
I would say so. I think people across Texas are interested in this race just because of what Tarrant County represents. I mean, we've seen some, Republican officials be a little bit more hesitant in their support of some of the Republican statewide officials. And, Tarrant County has been a Republican stronghold for a long time, but Democrats obviously made inroads on statewide elections. If they can win, in these local elections too, I think it'll mean a lot about the direction the state is headed.
But we heard Tim O'Hare tell Jason Whiteley that it did not seem to bother him that much that he was not endorsed by both the mayors of Fort Worth or Arlington or outgoing Tarrant County Judge Glenn Whitley. Is that a bigger deal than he's acknowledging?
Mark, I really don't think people are paying attention to these local races or even many of the state races. I think this election is falling down to national news, national coverage, simple Republican Democrat politics. The local numbers are pushing the races very little. Tarrant County has been a Republican county for 30 years at the courthouse, and it'll be very surprising if anything changes that.
Ashley, real quickly, would you agree?
I mean, I would say that I have to agree with him. I think that there's so much dominating national news, and folk just like to vote in Texas. We have seen folk like to vote along their party lines, and they don't differ often from those lines. They don't stray. And so, Texas has been red. It's going to be red until it's not red. And we just have to wait and see if that's going to happen this election. All
right. Well, I want to thank you, Matthew, Bud, and Ashley, for hanging out with us this Sunday morning. Appreciate your time. And thank you for watching as well. For Mark Istook, I'm in for Jason Whiteley. We'll see you right back here next Sunday. In the meantime, stay healthy and have a great week, everybody.